So this is our mini class for this week, and our theme this week is around rhythm and flow. So when we are stressed, and many people are chronically stressed with this situation right now, but even without a pandemic, right? We probably all know someone or have ourselves lived with some chronic stress from time to time. And restoring our rhythm and our flow brings us back to a place of ease. So it's not necessarily instant. There's no magic button we can press to restore flow, but to consistently come back to ourselves, come back to our own rhythm and things that soothe and feel good to us. And there's some things that already feel good and soothing to human beings from birth, right? It's just part of our wiring with our nervous systems that we really enjoy rocking movements, and they tend to soothe us. So if you think of a baby, right? We're rocking a baby and the baby becomes quiet and goes to sleep. I find when I'm doing public speaking or whatnot, I'm often rocking from one foot to the other. Even when I'm sitting teaching, I'll find myself kind of rocking from side to side. I used to try to stop that because I thought it was distracting. But now I realize what it is it's my attempt to create a sense of ease when I might be a little bit more nervous. So I'm doing that rocking movement. Walking, so especially movements that work bilaterally, so one side then the other. And that is why walking is so great for us when we're stressed out, right? Getting up and moving the body rhythmically, bilaterally, it helps to bring our nervous systems back into a place of what we call the window of tolerance, where we're relaxed, right? So we get ourselves stressed out, we go for a walk, we come home, we feel better, those kinds of things. So today I want to introduce to you a bilateral rhythmic movement that you can do anywhere. You don't have to go out for a walk even if the weather's bad. You can do it right in your own living room or wherever you happen to be. And it is called the butterfly hug. It comes from a therapeutic modality that treats trauma primarily, but trauma is just stress on steroids, right? Um, and it works a lot with eye movement and some tapping and different rhythmic movements of the body. So the butterfly hug, you're going to take your hands and cross them with your thumb pads connected. And then you want your hands to be on an angle up toward the ceiling, so not um, straight out vertically, but a little more horizontally. Then you're going to locate your collarbones right here in the front of your shoulder, and you want to bring your fingertips below your collarbones. So the other thing that bilateral movement and tapping does is it rearranges your brain. So our brains get scrambled when they're stressed, and this reunites the sides of the brain. So different parts of the brain go online and offline with stress, and this helps to restore that balance. So you're going to bring your hands here, and you're just going to tap one hand and then the other, one hand and the other, and that's it. You can close your eyes if you like. It's just a light tapping, whatever feels good for you. I find when I'm doing this, there's always a moment where I just naturally kind of take a deeper breath and sigh. And that is my nervous system saying, oh, okay, I get it. We're good. We're safe. We're relaxed. So you might notice the same, you might not. It's going to be a little different for everyone. Right. And then just pause. You can let that go, release your hands, and just take a moment to notice what's present for you now. And you may not feel anything, doing it once or doing it when you're already kind of relaxed, but it is a tool that you can bring in anytime you need it. Just take a moment and notice. So we're going to move into a little bit of movement, potentially coordinated with the breath, but the coordination with the breath is never required. It's a suggestion. You can sit on the floor, or you can sit on a chair. I'm going to choose a chair for this. But floor is totally fine as well. So you can sit cross-legged, sit with your legs out if you're on the ground, or if you're on a chair, feet are flat on the floor, and you want to be a little closer to the edge of the chair so that you're not tempted to kind of slump back into the support of the chair. So this rhythmic movement is a forward and back movement of the body. It's a tilt of the pelvis. We do it very regularly, the cat-cow movement. So here the heart lifts as the pelvis kind of tips forward. You're moving onto the front of your sit bones, and then you're rolling back toward your tailbone, the back of your sit bones. The pelvis tilts back, the head comes down, shoulders round. So lifting and rounding. If you want to coordinate your breathing, inhale as you lift, exhale as you round. A few more at your own pace. And then come back to a neutral spine. Next one, we're going to do another really simple exercise that adds in now movement, perhaps coordinating the breath, but again, not essential, and where we're looking. So I mentioned EMDR, the modality that the tapping comes from, and it also uses eye movements to help to regulate the nervous system as well. And it's more complicated than I even know or can explain in this time. But we're in yoga uses the same idea of using the gaze where we're looking to help direct our focus and attention. Right? So in this one, very simple, you're going to take one arm to the side. You're going to turn your head to look at that hand, and you're going to follow it. As you bring the hand across your body to the opposite shoulder, you're going to keep your eyes on your hand, chin comes down at the end, and then you're going to follow it back out. Now, the first thing we tend to do when we feel a little stressed or we're trying something new is to hold the breath. So I really encourage you to notice if you're doing that and to breathe. And if you like, if you want to, you can coordinate the breath so that you're inhaling as you open, exhaling as you close. If that pace isn't comfortable for how quickly or slowly you want to move, then just do the movement at the pace that feels right for you. And as long as you're breathing, it's all good. Okay. And after the next time your hand comes to your shoulder, we'll finish by opening. And then you can follow with your gaze as you bring your hand down to your thigh or your lap. And then shift your gaze to the other hand. Open as you follow with your gaze, maybe inhaling as you do that, and then maybe exhaling as you bring it across, or just breathing normally. And let's make this the last one. So you'll come across to the shoulder again. You'll open as you follow with your gaze. And you'll continue to follow with your gaze as you bring your hand back down. We'll go back into the cat-cow now, and we're going to use the gaze also as a way of bringing focus. So as you inhale, without tipping your head back, let your eyes roll up, looking up toward the ceiling. Then as you exhale and round, let your gaze come down, so you're looking off the tip of your nose toward your chest. Inhaling, looking up. Exhaling, looking down. You do a few more at your own pace. Lovely. And then let's come back to the center. So now we'll raise the arms, reaching up with a breath in. And we'll bring the hands back to the legs. Let the body hinge forward from the hips now, adding a forward bend. So if you're coordinating breath, inhale as you lift, exhale as you come forward. Finding your own unique rhythm and flow. The interesting thing I find is that when I'm teaching a class and everyone's in the same room, most of the people end up finding a rhythm that's very similar, if not the same, to everyone else. But we do all have our own unique rhythm and flow of our breath. But the interesting thing is when we come into community, moving together is more soothing often than moving in our own unique rhythm. So we come in like a flock of birds all coming together. It's really fascinating how we humans work. Great. Make this your last one, and if you like, you can stay in the forward bend. So if you're on the floor, you might brace your hands against the floor. You might bring your elbows or your hands or chest to your knees if you're in a chair. Take a few breaths, even maybe hanging your arms down if that feels good. When you're ready to come up, lift with the breath in, reaching up and releasing down. So we'll do one more movement seated, and that is a bit of a twist. And this is, we're just warming up the spine, so we don't want to go, full on with the twist. It's nice and simple. And here we'll raise both arms again. And as you twist, you're going to bring the hands down, one hand to the leg near the knee, the other hand either to the floor or to the chair, and you can use it against the floor or chair to lift your spine as you turn, and then you'll come back to center and twist the other way. So it's really not important that you twist any particular amount to each side, but that you find your rhythm and find ease. Keep your spine long and keep flowing in your own rhythm, whether you're coordinating with breath, which would be inhale, center, exhale to the side, or if you're just moving at a pace that feels right for you. Great. Finish off on this next side. Come back to center and release the arms down, and a few more cat-cow movements. So inhale, arch, exhale, rounding. If you like, you can add the gaze, so looking up toward the ceiling and then down toward the floor, your chest. Maybe inhaling as you arch, exhaling as you round if you're coordinating. Sometimes that can be a lot to think about and ends up creating stress. It's like, when was I supposed to inhale? When was I supposed to exhale? So if you're ever not sure, just breathe. Lovely. So coming back to a neutral spine, we're going to make our way down onto the mat, lying down. So take your time. If you're already on the ground, it's not so far to go. So when you come to lie down, just find yourself a comfortable position. It doesn't have to be in any particular way. I invite you to, if it feels comfortable for you, to let your hands rest on your body somewhere, just to tune into your own rhythm and flow of breath. As I mentioned earlier, when we feel stressed or we get surprised or shocked, often the first thing we do is hold our breath. And when we notice that, if we can allow ourselves to come back to breathing, often that's enough to restore our natural rhythm and flow. to bring our nervous system back to a place of calm within our window of tolerance. And that's just a fancy way of saying we're back to being at our baseline or being calm or being at ease. So tune into your breath, make it your friend. That steady friend who's there whenever you need them. So as well as rocking movements being very soothing for us, as I mentioned earlier, also the area around the sacrum, the back of the hips, there's a lot of nerves that come in and through this area. And when we stimulate the sacrum, we're actually also coming into a little more ease. So if you think about holding a baby, you're often patting it on its bum, right? And it can be very, very soothing. Now, if someone pats you as an adult on your bum, you may not like it quite so much, but we can simulate that with just taking the knees a few inches one way. So your knees will need to be bent for this, and a few inches the other way. And you'll probably feel your weight kind of rock from one side to the other. So the sacrum itself is kind of flat. It's about the size of your palm. And there's a bit of a spine down the center. So you may feel your weight shift across that spine. If your behind is a little less padded than mine, or your sacrum is a little more pointed, that spine of your sacrum, you might need to put a blanket or something a little softer under you to feel comfortable here. So you're just letting your weight shift from one side of your sacrum to the other in a nice rhythmic way. So again, it's that bilateral movement. There's the rocking movement, and there's the sacrum, that area that has a lot of nerves running through. So we're gently releasing and stimulating the sacrum. Now, if it feels good to you and you would like to work with a little bit of a deeper twist, you can take the arms, actually you can leave them on the body if you like, or take them to the sides, whatever you like. And then we'll let the knees go a little further to the side. So you actually come right onto the hip, off the sacrum as you go to one side, come back to the center, and twist the other way. So again, there's a few pieces you can add for a little more here if you like. So if the knees go one way, you can turn your head the other way to bring that twist all the way up the spine. And you could also coordinate your breathing. So you'd exhale to the side, inhale to the center, exhale to the side, inhale to the center. Find your own rhythm. And each time we do this, we're actually massaging the sacrum every time we pass through the center. Come back to the middle now. If you feel like your hips have shifted one way or the other, you might want to lift them up. Pause there for a moment in a gentle bridge, and then let the spine come down slowly. So you feel like you're nice and even again. And then we'll bring one knee up into the chest. You can bring your hands over the shin, or if it's more comfortable, behind the thigh. And you can either keep the other leg straight, or if it's comfortable, stretch it out on the ground. You want to keep the leg that's on the ground, if you've straightened it out, really active, so toes point toward the ceiling, thighs engaged. And then we'll shift this knee that we're holding into one hand and the other. So again, we're stimulating a little bit across the back of the sacrum, doing a little bit of this bilateral and rocking movement. And we're also bringing a little more synovial fluid into the hip joint. So the hip all joints get lubricated through movement. And you can also check in with how your hip feels. Maybe a circle would feel better than straight back and forth. So you can do half the circle in one hand, the other half in the other hand. And then either keep moving, or if your body would appreciate a deeper twist, you can take opposite hand to knee, roll onto the hip of the straight or unengaged leg, the leg that you haven't been working with, and roll over towards the opposite side from that bent knee. So you're coming into a gentle twist. The foot can just rest on the leg or come to the floor, whatever's comfortable. And we don't want to go into the deepest twist we can possibly go into and then hold it with stress. We want to really honor our bodies and find a way of being in the poses where it may feel like a bit of a challenge or a bit of an edge, but we can still relax. We can still let go. When you're ready, you'll come back onto your back to center. I would recommend bending both knees and again, doing that little adjustment by lifting the hips and bringing them back down so that you feel aligned again. And then we'll try the other side. So one knee in, the opposite knee this time, the other leg can be bent or straight, keeping that leg active. And starting with some side to side movement, sending the knee into one hand and the other as you rock and stimulate around the sacrum. Remember, if you're feeling pressure, too much pressure on the back of your hips, just add a blanket, place it underneath your hips, whatever's handy. Sometimes even just doubling over your mat can be good. Again, if a circle would feel good, you can do half the circle with one arm, half with the other, or play around with the shape that feels good for your hip. So again, you can stay with the movement, or if your body says yes to a deeper twist, you know, reach opposite hand to knee, the other arm just rests on the ground. You're gonna roll over onto the other hip, bringing the knee across the body. You can pause there for a few breaths and really tune in. Have I gone so far that I'm creating tension, which is counterproductive, right? We're here to bring ease, even with challenge, right? We can be challenged and we can work hard and still find ease and flow and rhythm in that effort. But as soon as we start tensing up and forcing or resisting, we're just creating more tension. When you're ready, you'll roll again back onto your back. Bend your knees. And again, you may want to adjust by lifting the hips and bringing them back down in a way that feels even. And then both knees in toward the chest and bring one hand onto each knee. And we'll do two different movements. So a forward and back movement to begin with. And then later we'll do a side to side movement. So as we hold the knees and move them as far away as you can, you'll probably feel the weight over your sacrum. And then as you bring your knees in, the weight will likely shift away from your sacrum up your back a little bit. So notice that movement, that little bit of massage along the length of your lower back. It's not a big movement, it really targets and focuses the lower back and the back of the hip, which just happens to be an area where many of us do hold a lot of tension. If you want to coordinate breathing, inhale as you go away, exhale as you come in. And it may seem like this is a super simple movement, but when we bring our attention, our breath, our awareness, and the movement together, there's actually quite a lot going on. Now, as you come in, Notice if it feels more comfortable to have your knees together when they're closer to your body or apart, right? And choose what works for you. One hand can be on each knee, or if you like, you can clasp your hands over your knees. And now we'll rock a little bit side to side with the knees in as close to the body as is comfortable for you. And notice where you feel the weight, where you feel the pressure. So for me now, there's more massage or pressure on muscles that line either side of the spine and my lower back. If your spine sticks out more than those muscles, this may not be comfortable for you. Again, putting a blanket under you might help. Or maybe you want to go back to the other movement, or you can circle around, which is where we're going next. So once you've tuned into that feeling and where you're giving yourself some stimulation in the back of the body, you can try circling your knees. As if you're circling the edges of your sacrum and across your lower back. And really tune into and see if you can feel those subtle weight shifts between your back and the ground. And I know for some people, depending on how the spine is shaped, that extra padding is required here. So don't bruise your back doing this movement. And then let's come back to a central position and move the legs toward the ceiling. Keep a bend in the knees, reach your arms up and circle your wrists and your ankles. So circle in one direction and then the other direction. And then relax your ankles and wrists completely and give a shake to your arms and legs. And then when you feel complete with that, you can release your feet back to the floor. You can keep your knees bent or straighten the legs. We'll take a couple of minutes just to integrate. And here, before we come to stillness, I'm going to invite you, if you like, to come back to the butterfly hug. So you cross your hands and bring the pads of your thumbs together, fingers just below the collarbones, and then you'll tap bilaterally, so one side and then the other. Keep breathing. And then you can allow that to release. The hands can rest on your body or on the ground. We'll take just a minute or two to come back to stillness. And even in stillness, the rhythm and flow of the internal processes of your body are constantly in motion. So in fact, when we relax and we become still, all of those systems start to work a little bit more efficiently, a little better. The digestive rhythm, all your organs have their own rhythm, not just the heart that's pumping and the lungs that have their obvious rhythm, but all of the organs. So as much as possible, just getting out of your own way, breathing with as much ease as possible without forcing or controlling the breath in any way. Letting your limbs, your arms and legs relax. The tension will stop the flow in the body, literally slow down, constrict the arteries. The muscles constrict. When we relax, we allow that flow to happen. A few more breaths here. Softening the face, the neck and shoulders. Whole torso, pelvis and hips. Arms and legs, letting go again. From here, I invite you to take a nice full breath, let it out with a sigh. You can even make noise if that feels okay for you. And then stretching the legs out, stretching the arms up. Maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. And then when you're ready, you can lower the arms, bend the knees. And roll onto your side. And slowly make your way upright. Not all the way up, just to seated. So if you want to stay lying down a little longer, if that feels like it would be good for you today, then feel free to do that. And if you're ready to move on with your day, I really encourage you to take some of these ideas and test them out in your life. When you feel your stress level rise, think about, how would rocking feel? How would coming into the butterfly hug feel? How would going for a walk feel to help bring yourself back down to a place where you feel at ease and more regulated? That's my wish for you. Good namaste.